the message that we have been always saying is that we are wanting to be very active participants towards sustainable development. We do not want to be passive observers. And we have a very strong feedback from the resident associations that they really want to have a meaningful role to play in the development of Selangor. A need for us to have more institutionalized participation. They say that they want to participate, but how can they participate? So one of the things that we will be raising up will be a more structured approach of public participation so that the Selangor State Government can get feedback from the ground as to exactly what people want.
What we have lacked, I suppose, in these 2 years is actually these challenges that we issue is not only to Pakatan-led states. In fact, it is to the whole country, especially the federal government, who actually, the first place, they are the ones who wiped out the local council elections. So we will be intensifying our campaigns to the federal government, especially to the federal government, to urge them strongly to respond at least to these matters, the matters that the Pakatan Rakyat-led government has adopted at least, yeah, Freedom of Information Act, yeah, local council elections, you know, and including civil society members in local councils. These are things that all has not been done by the Sun national government, because local councils are not just doing about tiang lampu and sampah, you know. Policy making, you know, development issues, those are the things. So how could he say that local council election, don't bother, don't waste time with this, because the local councils should be involved with sampah issues and tiang lampu and all that, you know. So he as the Prime Minister of the country should know better than to make a statement like that. So we are now renewing, we are going to engage them to say, okay, now let's talk about local council elections. What is your commitment as federal government to this?
Selangor has, in fact, the first government in Malaysia and one of 80 governments worldwide that has introduced a freedom of information legislation. And the federal government and the rest of the state government must take this example. And similarly, on the local government elections, that must be our objective. There must be a roadmap to institute local elections within 2 years, hopefully together with the next general elections. And in the meantime, again, we want to call upon all state governments to emulate the fine example of the Selangor state government, which has in the past 2 years appointed non-political representatives.
We need education on these issues of freedom of information, local council election and participation in local government to be brought down to the grassroots level as much as possible through the media, through creative means, so that we have allies on the ground. The people will support the call, the ADUNs, the MPs, the councillors will support the call, and we want to tell the people and debunk some of the myth about local council election, one of it being that it's too costly. I think the discussion just now said that no, it is manageable. Let's not use cost factor, because if we use cost factor, then we cannot have any election. So that point we debunk. Someone also suggested it's time to go back to history, to pull back our experience, and Malaysia actually had respect for the third vote in the 60s. And even the government of that day, Tunku Abdul Rahman, was quoted as saying that this was a temporary measure, it will be restored when things are better. We think Malaysia has long been stable, it should be restored. And the final point that came out was that we also discussed a lot about mainstream media in Malaysia, and we were reminded that we should be wary of government-controlled media who spins things out of control, because we know that there is an agenda by the federal government to attack the Pakatan states.